That's my job, provide that access.
Well, we appreciate you coming along. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And don't forget to ask about the poodle skirt.
That's right.
The greater Bemidji area that'll guide our development into the future.
Members, county commissioners, they're appointed by their respective bodies.
Honey, or it can be local, you and I creating a business that then we take to a global perspective.
If you have a question, call and ask, we'll help you.
Nobody knows about it, and it's
Well, the
great
word's out now. The word's out now.
Your entire operation, how bring people in. So let's get involved. Economic development is one of the most important tasks we have.
It is. It is.
Great to hear about.
Thanks again.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks.
It's been a pleasure, Louis.
Good evening. It's 6:30 on Wednesday evening, and I'm Lou Crenshaw. We're back once again, thanks to Upstream TV with Inside Bemidji, where we showcase people and organizations who are working to make our community an even better place. So tonight, I'm happy to be here with Mike Mastin, our police chief for the city of Bemidji. Mike, thanks for coming along.
Thanks for having me.
And let's start, Mike, with, are you originally from Bemidji?
Well, I'm not originally from Bemidji. I was born and raised in Detroit Lakes. Pursued law enforcement as an education and occupation. I went to Ely, Vermilion Community College, and I got a 2-year degree there. And then, as most men do, I followed a woman. And
That's what I did. That's why I'm here.
my wife came here for to get her degree in education. She's a school teacher, and I followed.
What year did you come?
We came to Bemidji in 1998.
Okay. So you've been here quite a while.
Yeah.
And did you go right into police work when you came to Bemidji, or how'd that work out for you?
Well, when I moved to Bemidji, law enforcement jobs were pretty scarce. It was pretty tough to find openings.
But you had been trained already in police work, right?
Correct. I actually worked seasonally for the DNR in Ely for the parks for Bearhead Lake State Park.
Okay.
And that was in obviously a natural resources park setting. And I was more interested in the law enforcement, municipal, county law enforcement. So when she came here, like I said, the jobs were sparse. I opted to continue my education and get a 4-year through BSU.
Okay, good. So you went to BSU and got a 4-year degree.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, I enrolled in 98 when we came here, and I was also applying for jobs at the same time. And actually during, would have been 1999, I got hired part-time with Cass Lake Police Department and worked that job as well as went to BSU to finish up my 4-year degree.
Wow, good for you. So you worked the job and went to school too.
Yep.
Good for you.
Yep, and then just prior to graduating with my 4-year from BSU, I got a job offer from Bemidji. And I accepted from Chief Tell at that time, just on the stipulation that I could finish my 4-year degree.
Sure.
And he was more than willing to do that.
That's important.
So I started here in April and then finished my 4-year degree in May.
Now, what year was that again?
In 2000.
2000, okay.
Yeah.
So you've stayed here, your wife stayed here, your wife's still in the area?
Correct.
Of
Yep.
course she's in the area, man. What's she doing?
Yep, she teaches in LaPorte, 3rd grade in LaPorte.
Okay.
And
so she got a degree at BSU and is a teacher?
Correct.
And is teaching down in LaPorte. You guys live down that way?
Yep. Yep, we've lived down there, since 2001.
Good for you. Got a family?
Yep. We have 2 young daughters, one 5-year-old and one 8-year-old. And the youngest one is just going to be starting kindergarten, so she's also so excited.
Good.
So
Good.
So we're definitely here to stay. We have family, we have roots now. So.
Good. There you go. Our police chief has been here and got a family here. And how did it work out, Mike? I mean, you didn't come in as chief, right? How did your career move you up here in Bemidji?
Well, like I said, I got hired in 2000.
Yep.
And at that time I was hired, as most come into the job, as just a patrol officer, which has by far been my favorite job.
Well,
I really enjoy that.
Not just, but a patrol officer.
That is my favorite job. You know,
sure.
in about 2003, I had an opportunity to fulfill one of our positions, which is an auto theft investigator. It's not a promotion, and we can get into that later, not a promotion to a full detective, but it's a temporary assignment as an investigator, so which focuses mainly on auto theft. And at that time, we had a lot of vehicles stolen in this town. Part of it was habit, part of it was crimes of opportunity, another portion was technology. At the time, late 90s, vintage GM, Pontiac, that sort of vehicle, I hate to say it was a very easy vehicle to steal.
When I was in college, we'd lock our keys in the car, and I could open them with a folded coat hanger. Remember that? You used to make a coat hanger like that. And
just hook the knob and
just
pop it right open.
and the knob had a big convenient thing on it.
Yep.
And I wasn't stealing them. I was just trying to get
your own
my
keys.
keys in.
Yep.
And you're right. Nowadays, I don't know what you do if you lock your keys in a car. They're so hard to get in.
Now you can open it with your smartphone. You can just call up and open.
Yeah.
So the technology has made a significant improvement in that, and along with changing some people's habits, northern Minnesota, and actually a lot of rural communities, it's no big deal.
So technology has helped car thefts get more under control. So how many years have you been chief?
I became chief in 2011.
2011?
Right at the end of 2011.
Okay. So you moved up through sergeant and...
Yep, I was night sergeant for a little over 5 years, then moved on to captain, and then ultimately to chief.
Okay. So here we are with our police chief. We're going to talk about the operation of our police department, the kind of things they do, the kind of things that happen. But Mike says he's here with his family and he's here to stay.
Yeah.
I'm here to stay too. I live out in Lavinia full time, and here we are.
There you go.
So let's talk about then... Oh, I got to, before I ask you, I got to share, I read these interesting things on your webpage.
Oh.
So I want to just share them,
Okay.
okay? First of all, the objectives of the police department, because we need to hear this. What's Mike and his team up to? Well, they're protecting life and property. I got this from your webpage. Protecting life and property and the preservation of the peace. So that's making our city a better place right there. Also, these interesting facts. Our first village marshal was in 1896. Daniel Darmus. So any Darmus family out there, maybe Daniel was part of your ancestors. And then 1905, when the city had become incorporated, our first chief of police was S.O. Bailey. So maybe there's a Bailey family out there. And from 1905 till now, Mike, what's your organization like today?
There are a lot of changes.
Well, I'm sure of that. For example, how big are you? How many officers do you have today?
We currently have 32 licensed officers. And then
and is that what you want? Is that what you're running at right now?
After
under or over? Or?
Many people may have seen the article in the paper not too long ago about our crime statistics and the occurrence of crime in our area. And I've taken a long, hard look at that. Last year, the question was posed to me by the council, and at that time was my recommendation, let me see what I can do with what I have before I start asking for more, because I don't believe in just putting a bunch of money out there, putting a bunch of officers on the street with no plan. I want to know what I can do with a full staff. I'm still fighting that fight to get full staff, but I have a much better picture of what I can do with what I have now. And I do believe that I need more people if we're going to be as proactive as I would like to be, as the council would like to be, and I think as the citizens would like our police department to be. There's a lot of issues that aren't necessarily the in-depth crime things that you always see, the homicides and the major assaults and the bank robberies, but more so the quality of life issues. I guess the area I live, I base on how I feel the quality of life is, your neighborhood, how you interact with your neighbors and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And when people perceive how Bemidji is, I hope and I want to help them think they live in a really great place, because they do.
Sure, I think
And
we do.
all of us can work together to do that, but there are some aspects, barking dogs and loud mufflers and loud stereos and that sort of thing that are lower on the realm of severity of crime, but they affect the quality of life.
And so getting, if you will, down to that level is difficult with the team you have. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Correct, because we do have a high amount of crime that occurs here, and our officers tend to or respond to more calls for service than other agencies or other officers in other areas of our state. We have there's a big difference. I don't know if you want to get into this later or now. The crime statistics. The front page of the paper says highest crime rate in the state, and it's true. We do have the highest crime rate, and it's very very important people look at that as a statistic, and it's based. A lot of people that mess with statistics know you can make them say whatever you want them to say.
It depends
But
on
it's
how
also
you change
skewed.
the base and
Exactly.
how you
And our
make the comparison.
the very
What's your
basis
take on that?
the very basis of crime rate is your population in comparison to the number of crimes you have. Bemidji is identified as having 13,700 people. I would beg to differ, and I think the studies that have been done around Bemidji show the sizable population that is around Bemidji, just outside the city.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're a regional center. If you're going to commit a crime of trying to better your personal economy, for
Mhm.
example, this is the place to come.
Well,
In other words, there's a lot of stuff you would want to like steal or get
Well-
your hands on here in Bemidji.
if you
if
look
you're
at
in the
the
region.
surrounding area, where is the
Mhm.
major retail?
Yeah, that's what,
It's here.
that's what I was trying to
So
say.
we
right?
do have a high incidence of shoplifting. If any crime, the population is here. People drive here to work here. The majority of people live outside of the city limits. The city limits are identified as 13,700.
Yeah, sure.
The county is, I think, around that 40,000.
Yeah, exactly.
population.
Yeah, and
But where do they
the-
work? Where
but
do they
we're the
shop?
center of a region that's
Correct.
not just the county number.
So if we were able to use their population, obviously our crime rate would be much lower than it is. You would actually be able to identify the number of people versus the number of crimes. So that crime statistic is a bit skewed.
Mhm.
However, I will say, if you look at the actual number of crimes, when we classify crimes, there are Part 1 and Part 2 crimes identified by the FBI. And they are person crimes. There's several person crimes that are identified, and property crimes. And the person crimes are your major assaults, homicides, rape, robbery, person crimes. The property crimes are your vehicle theft, the shoplifting type theft, arson, things happening to property. And if you look at our total occurrences of those are around 3,700 occurrences last year of those major type of crimes. Not to say we had about 24,000 calls for service. That's calls for everything from barking dogs and that, but that doesn't count in our crime rate. The actual crimes are around 3,700. If you look across the state, and the report is available on the internet through the Minnesota BC website, they just published it. To find another city that has 3,700 crimes, and it was in the paper, it's like, I believe, Burnsville and Apple Valley, and they have anywhere from 49 to 72 officers on staff. I have 32. So we definitely are far fewer officers than, say, comparable cities when you actually look at the
For
number of crimes.
Dealing with the crimes you're dealing with. So let me just back you up and try to understand those numbers a little bit. So you're getting then roughly 65 to 70 calls for service a day. Now is this people calling 911 or
Well,
calling the police or?
It's a variety. You never know what people are going to call for. There's some pretty out there kind of calls that we
Yeah,
get.
that's the total. When you said calls for service,
Calls for
I
service.
listened to your number, I tried to
Yep.
divide it out. So you're getting 65, say, calls a day.
Yep.
And of those, 10 are real crimes. Because you're getting
Yeah.
3,600, so you're
Excuse
getting
me.
10 real crimes a day. By real crimes, I mean
Yep.
the most serious.
Yep.
Every crime is a
Serious
crime.
to the person that it happens to,
But
for sure.
Yeah, but those that are in your FBI category 1 kind of thing.
Yep. And each of those can take varying amounts of times. You know, there's the call that, hey, I locked my keys in my car. We still get that one. And
That's
for those
probably
out there,
not one of
we
your, that's
don't.
probably not one of your 10
Well,
majors. Right?
and for those out there, we don't perform that anymore. We leave that
Call
up
the
to tow
locksmith.
companies. Yeah,
Sure.
because technology has changed so much. You can actually fatalities occur when you try the old coat hanger trick. So we don't do that.
Oh, good.
We leave that to tow companies.
Wow.
They're trained on it, and they.
God, I used to
Well,
be so good at it.
But they, you know, vehicles now they have side impact airbags.
50 years ago.
When the airbag was a, you know, exactly. But you know, it can be calls from that to credit card financial fraud. Guys are tied up for hours trying to track that stuff down, and while they're doing that, other calls are piling up.
Yeah, if you're getting 60 a
So,
day, my gosh.
You're trying to handle all of those calls, yet fully investigate the calls you already have.
Yeah, got it.
That really backs people up. And then when you're looking at the quality of life issues, get out there and be proactive and walk around and do the downtown.
Can you ever get to that?
It's tough.
Can you ever get
At
to
our,
that?
I would say at our current staffing,
Uh-huh.
no, it's difficult.
I understand that. I understand your point totally in that when you look at your numbers, you're dealing with what you got, but you'd like to do more
Yeah.
to get to that end of the curve, because you're kind of pinned down the really serious end of the curve.
Yep.
Let's come back to that and talk about trends later. I want to understand more about your organization and how you deploy your people.
Okay.
Okay, so as I understand it, there's the chief, and then there's at least one captain. Is there more than one captain?
Just one.
Just one.
Yep.
And what kind of thing? What's the captain do? What's
His role is purely operational. He handles the, I'll say, the nuts and bolts of the running the police department. He deals with scheduling. He does a lot of grant application, a lot of grant administration, to make sure that we're following through on exactly what we said we were going to do for those grants. He takes care of, you know, the leave requests and training requests, and there's several different boards that he sits on, so we have a voice within other areas of the city, because we don't want to be just a closed entity. We want to open up and be a part of the community and see what we can do to make it better.
So he is your operations officer.
Correct.
He's involved in the grant work, and then he's liaisoning, if I understood.
Yeah.
That. So for example, and I'm making this up, this is a question. So for example, he's working with the county people,
Mm-hmm.
County police. Would he be the guy doing that and working with the state and other
You know,
crime fighting organizations?
as far as relationships with law enforcement agencies,
Yeah. How's that work?
we work really well with the county sheriff's office. Part of it, we're in the same building, but we always, since I've started, and it's actually unique, I hear about it when I go talk to other chiefs across the state. A lot are surprised at how well we work together between the departments. Sometimes there's some animosity between the departments and jurisdictional lines, and we just try to work together because we have an understanding that crime does not remain in one area. And, you know, I view this as a public as well. We can't do this ourselves.
Right,
but-
tell me more about
but
that.
as far as-
crime does not stay in one area.
You know, from time to time we'll call them shoplifting rings, if you will, for lack of a better term. And you get a group of people that have come to town and they'll steal everything that isn't screwed to the ground.
Wow.
And then that crime occurs in the Bemidji. But then their goal is to make money on it, so they sell it. Well, they might live out in the county, so now it's turned into a county case. But the crime occurred in Bemidji, so it's city. So our guys work together,
Yeah.
and we share information all the time, and we have regular investigator meetings. Our patrol is always intermingling, but the investigator meetings, we invite the sheriff's office, the FBI, the task force in our area, BCA. They meet weekly to share information, so
Okay.
we're not missing anything.
So you guys, of course, you and Phil are down in the same building.
Yep.
So that must help a lot.
Very much.
What's the presence of those other people you named, like the FBI. Do we have an FBI presence in Bemidji?
We do.
Do they have an office here?
Yep, they're housed just about a block and a half away from here.
Okay.
And
Well, they ought to come down and talk with us.
yeah, they're fun guys.
Okay. The FBI are fun.
They have far more interesting stories than I have.
No. And how about the state?
You know, State Patrol?
State Patrol?
Yep, they,
I see them out on, of course, around, but.
They're housed in MnDOT. They have a satellite office here in Bemidji, in the MnDOT building over the airport.
Okay.
BCA has their office right across from them on the highway, right next to the
So
airport.
they're another group that you're contacting and liaising with.
Yep, and we all work together. We all have our specialties, but we all work together because, like I said, crime doesn't just stay in one area, and it's not just one person. And you'd be amazed at especially in these informal meetings that we have weekly, one person will be working on something and someone will say, wait a minute, I just had one of those, or I just had, I just had I can only think of current things, and I probably shouldn't say the current things, but, they'll identify a vehicle and say, wait a minute, I just had a bank, a check forgery last week where they pulled up in that same vehicle. I know who that is. And without those informal meetings,
Yes.
it would have went nowhere.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
that information sharing really is key to helping us solve more crimes. But
Interesting.
again, that takes more time and it takes more
Takes
manpower
time.
to do that.
Now, when a 911 call comes in, okay, it comes in through that center down in the building you and Phil Hodat were in.
Yep.
And then does it, if it's one of your serious, does it get kicked out and inform then the state and the FBI and other people we've been talking about? Or do you call them in when you think it's part of their...
Well, when a call comes in, it'll go to the Beltrami County Dispatch Center. The county runs that. It's part of the sheriff's office.
Yep.
And it's overseen by Burl Warrenberg.
Okay.
She does a great job of that. And that entity essentially is the filter at the end of the phone line, if you will. They take the initial information about the call. They identify what it's about, where it's at, and who should get it initially.
Okay.
Most of them it's, theft at wherever, and they identify it's a city, and they put it out over the radio and through the computer in the cars. They dispatch a city officer to that call.
Okay.
Same thing with the county. If it
And
happens in
those,
the county.
the people that are getting that, are those the people you call patrol?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
How many people are on patrol?
at any given time.
Just,
Well, for the-
how many people in your organization do patrol? Because they do it 24 hours a day,
Yep,
yes?
we're 24/7. We have varying shifts. We've taken. We used to be very rigid in our scheduling. It was the day shift, the mid shift, the night shift. And that's how it was. That's just with our new computer system. We got LETG a couple. I'd say early 2011, I believe. It's been a phenomenal system, and we can get a lot of information out of it. We have a crime analyst on the police department side, her name is Shar. She does a fantastic job, and she really can extract information from that system. I can get all kinds of information, but one of the most significant one was just analyzing our call volume. When do calls happen? The frequency, the time of day, the day of the week, all of
And the
that.
place?
Oh yeah.
So
we
this
can-
is part of that idea of let's put our police where the
Crime occurs.
troubles,
Yeah.
where the crime occurs,
and when occurs.
and when it occurs.
You'd probably be surprised, but in Bemidji, our busiest time for calls for service is 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's our busiest time in a 24-hour period. That is our busiest time.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I would have
Yeah.
thought it was
Late at
2
night.
a.m.
Yeah, everyone thinks Friday at midnight. It's
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
It's truly not.
2 to 7, so crime's an after work activity.
It is. But if you think about it, exactly, people are getting off work. They're getting home and they're discovering someone just kicked in my
Oh,
garage.
I see.
They're
So
getting back to their
they're
car.
reporting it.
Yeah,
Okay.
or
Okay.
things are happening. Kids get out of school and they go and decide they need a pack of gum or whatever. And their driving isn't the best after school. They're pretty anxious to get out of there. So we get those types of complaints. But mainly it's the people who are just getting home and discovering
I see.
things.
Things that
You
happen
know.
during the day.
Kind of the same thing at night. We have, in the morning, we have a spike right around that 7 o'clock, 8 in the morning when people are
People wake up.
going to the
Jeez.
car and say, my window's smashed.
Something happened bad
So,
here.
but the majority, so we schedule for that. We schedule
I see.
guys. So the majority of our people are on during that peak time. We still maintain a pretty good level. Our night shift pretty consistently has, at full staff, has 6 guys on at night. Our day shift, when full staff, has 5 guys on, and they rotate through that, so it takes a lot of people to do that. 24/7 coverage is not easy,
Yeah.
you know. And then
Yeah.
we also look at minimum coverages. You know, I'm always keeping in mind our overtime budget and realize it's taxpayer money and that sort of thing, but I also have to balance. I don't want people getting hurt. I don't know if you saw the statistics that we had more officers hurt last year than the previous year.
Yes.
Part of that is being short-staffed, and unintentionally, because we can't hire people fast enough and get them trained fast enough to get them on the road. And then, you know, you're always dealing with people that get hurt or out on leave, and we have some family medical leave type things, and so there's always, and that happens in every organization.
That happens in any
So,
organization,
but you're always
sure.
having to, and when you're already short in the first place, that's tough to manage around. So
I want to come back to something you said, which was training and recruitment, but before we leave it with your planning, I'm just guessing that events like the Dragon Boat's coming up,
Yep.
so what will you guys do, just as an example for that? So you'll change your shift to have more people on duty, or
Well,
are they needed for something like that?
we, you know, thankfully we have a history with the Dragon Boat. We have a history with the JC's Water Carnival, those sorts of bigger events. So we've been able to gauge a little more accurately how many people we need to cover an event like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this coming, I actually just made the schedule today. We've reduced the number of hours at the Dragon Boat, Dragon's Den tent, just because we don't have calls for service there.
Good.
At the frequency that,
So
say,
it isn't really a crime, that much crime that goes on. I'm glad to hear that.
correct.
Good. Very good. County fair the same way?
No, the county fair is actually out in the county, but
Oh,
the
that's
same
right,
thing.
of course.
They have a whole, they have a lot of posse volunteers, sheriff's posse,
I
which is
see.
a volunteer group.
Uh-huh.
You
You have a volunteer group.
We do have a volunteer group, and we can get into that if you'd like.
No, I want to go back. I want to talk about recruitment and training.
Okay.
Because you were talking about some of your challenges there. So let's share that. Let's talk about recruitment and training. What's that like, and how's it work?
Well, as I said before, you know, in law enforcement in general, throughout Minnesota, there are a lot of retirements occurring right now. And part of that is because of the big pension change that's going to happen next year. And a lot of that also is...
It's advantageous to retire now before the change?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be some pretty stiff penalties if you wait past July of next year. So
What a shame.
it is unfortunate. Minnesota potentially could see 1,900 officers retire this year, which is substantial considering there's only 6,500 licensed in the state. You could see a third of the experience in law enforcement leave.
This does not sound like a real
Pretty substantial.
well-written law.
Pretty substantial. I don't know if they'll make changes or not, but we'll see how that plays out. Because of that, jobs in law enforcement are coming up all over the place. And we create, and a lot of agencies do, what's called an eligibility list. It's a process where people apply to us. We host a test, which we generally get about 70 applicants to come and take this written test to test their knowledge of Minnesota laws and that sort of thing, crimes and
Okay.
processing. And based on their score, they advance in the process through resume scoring and through interviews. And ultimately, we come up with a hiring list. By city ordinance, that list exists for a minimum of 90 days and a maximum of 2 years. And it used to be, when I got hired and even up through about 2009, that list continually made it 2 years. And you could hire someone who was number one right when the list was made, and 18 months later you could get number two, just
Okay.
because there weren't that many jobs.
Okay,
But
like
now,
you said, when you first came, there weren't.
there weren't any, so it
But
was.
now there's a lot of jobs.
Correct.
Because there's a lot of retirements, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So now when I create this list, which is a ton of work, I can usually hire 2 to 3 off the list right away. By the time I get them through our training program and go back to the list to hire the next batch, those candidates are gone. And I'm having to go lower and lower on the list and potentially getting less qualified officers. By far I'm getting less experienced officers and some that just are ineligible to be hired because of
Well,
past
so
history.
we're not gonna do that, but you're
Yeah.
gonna have to redo your list.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, Mike, what do you have to do? I mean, the people who come and take your test, do they have to have some kind of formal training like you had? I mean, you just can't come in and show up for a police officer test
Yeah,
without.
you have to be eligible to be, you either have to be licensed or eligible to be licensed in the state of Minnesota.
Okay.
To be eligible, you have to have in Minnesota law allows either a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree.
Okay, so these people have formal training, they show up, they take your test, you hire them. What's your turnover rate? Just normal attrition?
Normal attrition is about 2 a year,
Okay.
and that's just retirements or people.
So you gotta make your list anyway, all the
Correct.
time, keep it up to date.
Yep.
All right. Now then, all right, somebody comes on board, what's their training like? They're,
when,
to learn your systems and,
it a little bit depends on their background. If we can get experienced people who have been cops in other areas, it's much easier.
sure.
We're getting to
They
the
already
point
know
now-
what police work's like,
Correct.
right? Okay.
that all of them, when they initially start, enter a 14-week field training program. And that is broken down among 3 different field training officers, experienced officers we have in-house that do a tremendous job, and know how to do the job and know how to do it here. There's a difference in how law enforcement operates everywhere. We're no exception. We do things different.
So you've got a
We have-
14-week program laid out. There were 3 different officers.
Yep. That way they have a chance to be instructed by and evaluated by 3 different people. There's 3 different opinions, and there's 3 different life experiences collecting on one person to learn it all.
Yeah, good.
But it also, we do have the ability to shorten it or lengthen it depending on their progression.
Where are your people coming from now? Because sounds like you're bringing people in at least 2 a year, if not more,
Yep.
with retirements. I mean, what kind of regional area, or where do you draw from?
We've had some really good hires recently from the metro area. We don't get a whole lot that apply from the metro area just because of the long drive. It's a different lifestyle up here, and I think that's why we tend to draw less to our testing than, say, agencies that are further south. So we do get, I would say 25% are metro area I would say significantly out of the area candidates. For the most part, they're people that live in this area and want to continue to live in this area.
Sure,
So-
okay. But they have gone to school and get some training.
Yep.
Let's take a break. Thanks for being with us tonight. I'm Lou Crenshaw. We do this show every 6:30 on Wednesday evening. We call it Inside Bemidji, and it's brought to you thanks to Upstream TV. And we showcase people and organizations who are working to make our community an even better place. And that's exactly what we're talking about tonight with Mike Mastin, our police chief from the city of Bemidji. And we're going to continue talking about the police department and their deployment and what they do and their challenges and what they're trying to do. So stick with us. Let's talk about some things around deployment, Mike. And by that I mean, you're doing different things. You're doing law enforcement, and you investigate crimes, and you investigate accidents, and probably other things that I don't know about. But how do you deploy your people, and which of those are most important or bigger workloads, or how's it work?
Well, as far as we talked a little bit earlier,
Yes.
the captain and I, we are the administration of the business, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So we take care of the business end of it. Other than that, the rest are all responders, but they respond in different areas. They're the glue of the department. They actually do the work. I
Sure.
just
Sure.
do the paperwork stuff. But
Yeah,
You know,
they're
the-
your professionals, and
the patrol officers are our initial response. They get dispatched and they respond to any call for service.
now as a patrol officer in what I would think of as like an entry level, kind of your bread and butter professional?
Yep.
Okay.
They're the guys you see in the car, guys and gals, you know,
Mhm.
they have female officers as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they're out there in the car doing the job.
Okay, so now we know who they are.
Yeah,
So go on.
they're the initial call responders, and they take the initial complaint, they investigate the crime, and depending on the technical aspects or the work involved, they'll either complete the investigation, do it all themselves, or if it becomes significantly involved, they'll enlist the help or forward the case on to the investigators or our detectives. And
You said earlier we have 2 detectives?
we have 2 detectives and 1 detective who's a sergeant, who's a supervisor. So
Okay.
technically, we have 3
All right.
full-time detectives.
Okay.
You know, they handle
So if the patrol officer can complete, he will.
Yep.
But if it's more involved or specialized or serious or for whatever reason,
Mhm.
he will then involve the detective. Is that the way
Yep.
it works?
Correct. Because
Mhm.
you know, some things take more manpower, just another set of hands. You have some cases have multiple witnesses and multiple victims. You have a lot of interviews to do, and you know, it just takes more people to do it. There are other cases that take more specialized training and experience in writing subpoenas for cell phone records and writing search warrants and that sort of thing. The detectives are continually doing those, whereas a
Sure,
patrolman
sure.
doesn't daily write subpoenas, so it's not.
It'd be way more time
It is, you know,
efficient
and there's,
if somebody's done it.
and especially if, you know, they're still tasked with responding to calls. So if it's starting to hinder their ability to go to the next call, it's time to hand it off or put it on hold for a little while, work on this one. So that they are masters of multitasking. They
Well, they must
continually
be.
have things
If you're
going.
getting 65 calls a day, what percentage are they even able to respond to?
We respond to all of them.
Okay, there you are. You respond to all of them.
Yep. Yeah, we don't, you know, in some of the larger metro areas, especially since things have become computerized, they have what's essentially called a call tree. The dispatch does not use the radio system like our dispatch does. They take the call, create it in their CAD system, their computer system, send it out to the car, and it pops up on the computer screen in the car. And when guys have a chance, they'll get to it. And some things hang in that tree for hours and hours and hours, whether it's people don't want to go to it or they're just too busy, but they have much more discretion. We dispatch them, and I don't believe that our guys would ever shirk calls like that, so to speak. They go to all of them.
I just wondered how they could possibly do that, but I'm amazed and happy
They do.
to hear it.
You know,
Good.
they do.
Good for you guys.
So,
The accidents, are those just automobile accidents, or this is, you know, I mean, you guys
You know,
respond to those?
like I said, we respond to all calls for service, motor vehicle accidents or any medical accidents. You know, we have a multitude of things that happen around it. There are some jurisdictional lines. Obviously, if someone needs help, we all go. It's just,
Yeah, that's what I was building up to, because there must be some kind of a call where you like scramble yourself and the fire guys and
well,
the
there are,
ambulance.
you know, there was a pretty significant call not too long ago, and just outside, out on the highway. You know, when it's a car versus deer, dented fender, it's a state patrol call. That's their jurisdiction. They respond. We might be closer, but it's their call, you know, and we do, we'll say, share the load that way. That's their call, they can have it. Just like as if it happens in our town, state patrol typically doesn't come and do accidents in our town,
Yeah, okay.
you know.
Uh-huh.
But something that's significant, you get a major, when the excavator hit the highway bridge.
Hit the bridge a few weeks ago, right? Yeah.
I think everyone with a badge was out there, you know,
Mhm.
just because it was significant. It happened mid-afternoon. There were vehicles out there. I don't know that there were any injuries at that one, but, you know, there was major, we had 2 different roads to blockade off. There's not enough state patrol on in the entire Northwest region to block them off in time, you know, so we go out there to help, and they, just the same, they come to the city and help us all the time. You know, at bar close, if we have a significant fight downtown, there's maroon, there's brown, there's blue, you know, the colors of the agency, we're here. Sometimes there's even green, you know, the Border Patrol or DNR helps us out, you know, so we all work together.
That's good.
So,
Now you run programs
mhm.
as well as your officers responding to all these calls, and you also run prevention programs as well, I believe.
Yep.
And the one I wanted to talk about, because I don't know anything about it, would like to, is DARE. It's on your website.
Yep.
And it sounds like it's a pretty important program for you, so let's learn some more about it.
Well,
What is
it's our DARE program, our Drug Awareness or Resistance Education Program. It's
Drug Awareness, Resistance, and Education.
Yep.
Okay.
It's run by Officer Hunt, who's been at the middle school for quite some time.
So it's run at
It's run at the middle school.
the middle school.
He teaches he's not just at the middle school roaming the halls. He teaches this class to, I believe it's just the sixth grade, but it's a regularly scheduled class about the effects of drugs and what they can do and why you shouldn't take drugs and what you should do if you encounter them and that sort of thing.
Good for him. So he's at the school, basically giving a course in
Yeah.
awareness.
Yep. And
Okay.
he's assigned to the middle school. He's there 9 months of the year. We also have an officer that's at the high school. He doesn't teach any classes per se, but both of them are meant to get children used to police, get them involved with police, recognize that we're humans just like they're humans, and we eat sandwiches and we laugh and we're human, you know, interact with us, and they really have done a good job at building those bonds. Last year, Officer Hunt was nominated for the Minnesota Juvenile Officer of the Year, and
Wow.
he
Congratulations.
won it, you know.
Well, he did.
Yep,
Good
so
for
he
him.
was given that award. He was also identified for a Distinguished Service Award by the Minnesota Chiefs Association for his work. I mean, he really does a significant job working with multiple agencies, because it's not just the officer at the middle school. He knows the resources to get involved when he sees a kid having problems or needs assistance or gets in trouble and becomes involved in the juvenile justice system. You know, he works well with the county attorney and the probation officers, and really has done that school well.
Good. Oh, that's
So-
a good story. I'm glad
so
you
we
shared
do-
it with us.
We do that, but we also do some, or occasionally business will ask us, like often banks will ask us about employee safety programs and what they should do if someone comes in and tries to rob the bank. What things should they know and how should they call? And we'll go out and do talks on that. Our task force officer will do informational programs on drug identification and how to dispose of drugs that they may have at their house, prescription drugs that they don't use anymore. They shouldn't keep them around because kids can get their hands on it, and it's a whole slew of problems that come about that.
Okay.
And you know, focusing on what to look for in people that you think may be abusing some type of drug, and what to do with that information once you have it.
And who does this program?
That's our task force officer. We have one officer assigned to the Paul Bunyan Drug Task Force,
Uh-huh.
who
I wonder if that would
primarily
be a good
works.
fun subject for, not a fun subject, but something for inside Bemidji when you talk about what do drugs look like, and how do you identify them, and how do you know somebody. Anyway, just an idea.
Yeah.
Just an
Yeah.
idea. Interesting. You know, one thing I saw on your webpage, Mike, that I wanted to understand is you repeated a number of times in some of your strategic write-ups how important, and you called them relationships with the community. Now, I heard you talking, for example, you're working in the school
Mm-hmm.
and working with the courts, and but what kind of relationships, what do they mean to you, and what are you trying to accomplish, and how are you trying to get the community to work with the police department? Let's go there and talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, since becoming chief, I've really, you know, I developed our strategic plan, put it on our website so everybody knew what we're about and what we're
Right,
doing.
which I read today, And
You know,
and you know what, I thought it was great, I really did. And so there's a website for the
City of
City of
Bemidji.
Bemidji's Police Department. They have a strategic plan, and it's very, very interesting and well done. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
But
But
relationships, talk to us, because here's, you know, some members of the community
Yep.
interested in making our community a better place. What kind of relationships are you reaching out, and how can we help you and work with you?
Well, you know, my goal is exactly that, to build relationships, to remove a bit of that mystique of the police, that closed doors, you know, you come to the law enforcement center and you can get in our lobby, but you can't get anywhere in the building. And there's reasons for that. You know, there's reasons we can only release certain information at certain times. There's data practices laws that prohibit us from releasing certain information at certain times. And I would like to build relationships with the community to develop an understanding on why we do the things that we do. And part of that is working together. One of the things I'm trying to work on, I hate to say in my free time, but the time that I get, is a program, essentially it's called Volunteers in Police Services.
Volunteers in Police Services.
Yeah, it's called, you know, the acronym is VIPs. And the idea of that is kind of along the same lines as, for years we've had the Citizen Patrol Group.
Right.
And they do a tremendous job for us. They really provide a benefit to our community. If the community doesn't know who they are, they really should take the time to know them.
You'll see them, for example, we talked about the Dragon Boat. Or
Yeah. At community events,
community events, right?
They do a lot of the services that we just don't have time to, especially when someone wants a presence or an assistance at an event, at a school dance,
Yeah,
at.
so we see them, but you want to go
parades.
beyond that.
I wanna go
You
beyond
want to
that.
do this VIP program.
Essentially,
what's it like?
it's a volunteer and police services group that I would divide into several areas. You know, when I grew up in Detroit Lakes. They had an Explorer program. It's for young kids that can get hands-on experience with a police officer. They sit down, they talk, they practice doing fingerprints, that sort of thing, just to build that relationship. Because so often people, sometimes, and it happens to me, I'll stop by a grocery store to pick up a gallon of milk on the way home, and I look like this. And because it's my uniform, that's what I work in. And occasionally there will be a parent whose child is acting up, and they will say to them, straighten up or he will take you from me. He'll take you away. And it drives me crazy because they just made me the boogeyman.
Yeah, you are then.
That child will never come to me for help. They'll never trust me.
Because you're going to take them away.
I'm going to take them away from mom and dad. Why would they trust me?
Yeah, that's terrible.
So I want that.
That's a terrible but important example.
But it happens.
An important example.
You know, and I want to have that group where kids can interact with police and see, you know what, we can be cool, we can be fun, we do fun things.
Well, fun or not, and I'm sure you are,
Mhm.
but it seems to me the key point is that trusting that we're on the same side.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, I don't know where it came from. Maybe it came from the weirdness of the 70s and 80s or some countercultural, but we seem, in my opinion, to have this, you know, where you like, your back straightens up when there's a policeman around.
Mhm.
You know, it's like somehow the culture has started to see our law enforcement as somebody else's team
Mhm.
instead of our team.
Yep.
I don't know what to do about it, but it's just an observation and an opinion I have. And if it,
Well-
to the extent it's true, that's not a good thing, because you guys really are our team. What's your goal? Protection of life and property, preservation of the peace.
Yep.
That's our team.
Yep. You know, I don't want to get off the VIP thing right
Oh,
now.
yeah,
I'll get back to
I
that.
got lost.
I'll get
Go
back to
ahead.
that, because there's another thing I want to add to that.
Okay.
So there's the younger children explorer group. Then there's a group called the Reserves.
The what?
Reserves.
Reserves.
A lot of
okay.
communities
Uh-huh.
have them, and we are primed to have a group like that. They are college-age students who are going to school to work in corrections, to work in probation, to work in law enforcement, who want to do this job, who we can have assist us, much like the Citizen Patrol does, but in areas that probably aren't suited for their genre, but for that college age kids that really wants to be law enforcement. You know, we can have them doing building checks at night. We can have them doing extra duties that we don't have time to do that doesn't require a licensed officer to do.
Well, when you said reserves, I was thinking, of like retired
Yep.
Army officers, but when you explain it, it sounds to me more like an intern kind of a program.
Kind of, yeah. We do offer an intern program right now, but that's very limited. We can only, in the intern setting, we typically have 2 in the winter and 2 in the spring. And that's about all we can do with that, because that's a much more involved program.
Okay.
The reserve is a little bit different structure, but it's that age group that I'm trying to focus on.
Okay, these are people who are studying
To become law
to
enforcement.
become law enforcement.
You know,
And
and
who
it's-
would organize and run this program? Would your captain run that, or who has time to run that? It sounds
that's
like
still
a
in the
really,
works.
see, that sounds like a big effort.
And that's,
You don't marshal volunteers or,
yeah, and that's becoming
and you gotta arrange an incentive program, some kind of compensation.
It's almost like its own
management,
department.
and- It is, it's like another branch of your
because it would be the
That's a big
explorers,
deal.
the reserves, patrol,
Uh-huh.
and then a 4th group that is essentially people who want to help, that want to become a part of our community, or they are a part of our community, but work with us to make it better, that have skill sets that we don't have.
What would be an
You know,
example of that?
Someone that can manage our website.
Ah,
We're not
okay.
computer savvy. We're not,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah,
that.
they look pretty good to me, but I see your point.
Well, you know, there's areas that aren't specifically law enforcement related, but there are people who want to volunteer that have tasks that can assist us. Someone that wants to just come in and volunteer filing time, or perhaps just a retired court reporter that just loves transcribing statements. We have hours worth, type away, you know, because that takes a lot of manpower. And if someone's willing to volunteer to help our department out,
I'm smiling because, I got a lot of business experience, but you probably don't want me in there telling you how to organize, because I don't know anything about police work.
well, you know,
No, but how would these people, they can't just walk in your door, I don't think, Mike.
Yeah.
How would you organize
well,
that or get
you
it
know,
going?
a friend of mine used to be the chief for Lino Lakes Police Department. Dave Picha, he's now the executive director of the Chiefs Association. And when he was the chief at Lino Lakes, he hired a volunteer coordinator, relatively, we'll say, cheap, for lack of better terms. And she was phenomenal, and she developed a program, and they went from 6 volunteers to over 100 volunteers.
Do you think this is possible for us to do?
I think so.
So this is like one of your visions that you'd like to bring about in Bemidji?
Down the road,
Right.
because
Now, before then, though, what should people do? Besides not getting our back stiff when we see you in the line with a jug of milk
yep,
and telling our kids you're gonna drag
Take 'em
them
away.
off. What kind of help do you need? What should the citizens be doing? Is there anything we can do to help besides volunteering and when you get that program going?
when probably the best thing, in the message I'd like to get across is the police can't do this alone. We all need to work together, and working together means trying to prevent crime at your own place, at your own workplace. Secure your property. We have a lot of property crime that occurs in this area.
Okay.
One excuse might be because of the high poverty rate. Whatever the cause is, people can do a lot to prevent that. Keep, the old saying, out of sight, out of mind. Don't leave your valuables out in the open. Lock your doors to your houses.
Lock your door to your house. Lock your car. Don't leave stuff laying on your back seat
Yeah.
when you park your car, right?
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
correct.
So in other words, don't make it easy.
Don't make it easy. And get to know your neighbors. That's,
Get to know your neighbor.
that goes a long way.
So you'll know when something's amiss.
You know when something's different.
Yeah.
The area I live in, I'm sure you as well, when you've lived there a long time, you know your neighbors, and to get to know them quickly, it takes a lot of extra effort. You know, over the years, you eventually bump into everybody and you get to know everybody.
Yeah.
But
But
people
you're saying
should
make a
really
point of it.
make a point. Go and visit people and get to know them, and then you will know when things change. You will realize, hey, there's a different car at so and so's house. You know, they said they were going to be gone this weekend.
Mhm.
You know, and you can call, and when you do call, make sure you get that good information before you call. You know, I always tell my wife, think of how you would write a book or how you would describe something to me. Because if you're going to tell me that someone's breaking into your neighbor's house, you need to know what they look like, what they're wearing, because by the time I get there, they're running away. And the only thing I'm going to have is a clothing description. And it's not going to do me any good to know that he's a male. You know, I mean, that helps, but
Because
the real thing,
you're gonna run into a lot of
you're
that.
around, especially in a municipality in town, there's people walking all over the place. You know, what we need is those fine details. If you can get those license plates, direction to travel, especially color of vehicle, number of people, you know, the more information you can provide us, the more we can solve these crimes.
So,
And-
if I heard you, step one is protect your stuff. We have property crime, so don't be a victim. Lock your doors and windows, lock your car, don't leave stuff on the back seat or in the car that people are gonna look in the windows and want to break into it.
Yep.
And the other is be a part of the neighborhood, kind of an informal neighborhood watch is what I
Yeah.
heard you say.
Yep.
Just be aware of what's going on there so that you know when something's not right.
Yep.
And I'm kind of reading between the lines, but the other one is if you think something's wrong, pick up the phone and call. What do they call? 911? You call the police department? What do you want them to call?
911 is the emergency number.
911's an emergency.
Yep.
Okay.
And 333-9111 is non-emergency.
333 9111. 333, and obviously a 9 because you had 3 3s. 333-91131.
For non-emergency. And if you call in on 911 and it's not, they'll transfer it to you to the
Okay.
other line.
So if you forget,
But it's important, you know,
3 3s are a 9, and then 3 1s are a 3. So 333-9111. I mean, it's easy now.
There
They
you
got it. Don't worry, they got it.
there you go.
So they call that if it's not an emergency. What would be a non-emergency? I mean, is a burglary at your neighbor's an emergency or not?
You know, I would say yeah.
I would say yeah,
Yeah.
because I like my neighbors, and if they're calling off his stuff,
Yep.
that's going to be an emergency for him.
If you're calling about the neighbor stereo at 10 in the evening, probably non-emergency.
That's probably 333-911.
And realistically, like I said, if you call 911, the dispatcher will transfer you over. Because there are only a limited number of 911 lines into
Gotcha.
dispatch.
Uh-huh.
And we don't want to have those busy when something significant comes in.
Mike and his team respond to every call. So if there's trouble in the city, help out, give a call.
There you go.
Get a good description.
You know, and you had mentioned don't make it easy. I have to, Craigslist is becoming so prevalent. There are lots of stolen goods being sold on Craigslist.
All right.
If the deal seems too good, really,
It probably is.
really question it.
Okay.
You know, if you're seeing the, you know, we get these forwarded and, you know, we try to view it as often as we can, but it all takes time.
And the law there is that stolen goods are always stolen goods,
Always.
right?
Yep.
So just because you got a good deal, you might have thrown that money
Yeah.
away
Mhm.
when the
Yeah.
crime investigation
You
tracks
know, and
those goods down.
We get emails or calls from people that say, you know, I see this vacuum on Craigslist and it's a $600 vacuum. He says it's new in the box, just doesn't want it anymore. And my first thought is, why don't you return it to the store instead of sell it for half the price on the internet?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because you can't return it to the store when you steal it.
Yeah, that's right.
You
The
know,
old
so-
British expression, it fell off the back of a lorry. I like that. Sure it did. Oh, Mike, it's really, we've covered a lot of ground. I've got a lot better understanding from your webpage, got a great webpage, and from our conversation. Let me do a little closing here because we're running out of time.
Okay.
Thanks for being with us tonight. As you can see, we've been talking with Mike Mastin, our police chief here in the city of Bemidji. we live in a city where, for whatever reason, we do have a high crime rate. And part of the answer is mitigated by the fact that we're a regional center, but part of it is just a fact that Mike's dealing with and using the best techniques and modern methods to get his people in the right place and protect our life and our property and keep the peace. And we need to work with him, and we've been talking about that. So protect your stuff, call the police when they're needed, and don't tell your children that they're going to haul them off to jail, because they're part of our team. So I'm Lou Crenshaw. We'll be back 6:30 on Wednesday evening, thanks to Upstream TV. We call this show Inside Bemidji, where we showcase people and organizations who are working to make our community an even better place. And we've certainly been doing that tonight in our talk with Mike. So Mike, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
We're at the end of the night. We've run out of time, but there's time for you to have the last word.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here and discuss this with you, and I want to remind the people that we all need to work together to make this the great place that we know it is to live in.
Right, and you and me both live here because we love it here, and I'm sure they do too. So we're going to work together on this.
Perfect.
Mike, thanks for
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.